Welcome to Entomology, the study of insects. This presentation is an introduction to the types of feeding damage insects cause. We'll focus on the ways insects eat plants and the types of injury that causes to the plants. Because they dominate all terrestrial environments that humans inhabit, insects are usually our most important competitors for food, fiber, and other natural resources. They directly affect agricultural food production by chewing the leaves of crop plants, sucking out plant juices, boring within the roots, stems, or leaves, and spreading plant pathogens. They also have a profound impact on the health of humans and domestic animals by causing annoyance, inflicting bites and stings, and transmitting disease. And they ruin stored grain, feed on natural fibers, and destroy wooden buildings. In this presentation, we'll be focusing just on the first aspect, of insects as plant feeders. As a home gardener, why would you care what type of mouthparts an insect has? Well, the type of mouthparts an insect has determines how it feeds and what sort of damage it does. Often confronted with a damaged plant, the insect that caused it is long gone, but we can use the type of damage as a clue to determine which insect may have caused the damage. There are four main mouthparts, the paired mandibles and maxillae, and the labrum and labium, plus a tongue-like appendage called the hypopharynx. It's not important to know all those names, just to realize there are a lot more parts than compared to the human jaw. The most basic arrangement of the various insect mouthparts is typified by the grasshopper. This basic or primitive arrangement is also seen in cockroaches, praying mantids, beetles, caterpillars, and some other insects. The paired mandibles are the largest and most visible parts, used to bite or chew the food. In plant-feeding insects, they are generally broad and flat on their opposing faces. The other parts are used to manipulate the food or help with swallowing, and may or may not be noticeable. But as insects evolved, those different mouthparts were rearranged in shape and function to be able to take advantage of different types of foods, especially liquids. It's hard to take up liquid foods with a pair of flat, opposing mandibles, so some insects have had the basic mouthparts modified to form a needle-like proboscis for piercing tissues and sucking out liquids. The mouthparts form a slender proboscis which is inserted into a food source by stabbing or cutting through the tissue. This is the type of mouthparts all Hemiptera have. Others have a proboscis that is essentially just a long hollow tube, sort of like a straw, for sipping, which can be coiled up when not in use. These siphoning mouthparts are an adaptation to draw nectar from long-throated flowers. Unlike piercing sucking mouthparts, these siphoning mouthparts, which most butterflies and moths have, do not penetrate into plant tissues. Another common type is the sponging mouthparts, which appear as a conical process with sponge-like lobes at the end used to soak up liquids. Many of the flies, including houseflies and fruit flies, have sponging mouthparts and often use enzymes to liquefy the food before feeding. There are many other modifications such as for rasping, but the majority of plant-feeding insects have either chewing or piercing sucking mouthparts. With two general types of mouthparts, there are two main types of feeding damage as well, chewing and sucking. Insects with chewing mouthparts tear off pieces of host tissue and ingest it, leaving big pieces of plant tissue missing, and therefore rather noticeable. Insects with sucking mouthparts suck liquid food, and this removal isn't something you can see, so damage frequently isn't noticeable until lots of insects are present, removing lots of sap. The most recognizable form of chewing damage is defoliation. The insects, such as grasshoppers, caterpillars, or beetles, consume irregular pieces or entire leaves, buds, and open flowers. Caterpillars especially will consume several times their own weight in plant tissue over the course of their development. A lot of fibrous material passes through the caterpillar gut undigested and forms a major component of the large fecal pellets called frass that caterpillars leave behind. Many times the caterpillar itself goes unnoticed, but these pellets are a telltale sign of what is causing the damage. Many times the insect only removes a portion of the leaf tissue. When only the tissue between the veins is eaten, leaving a lacy network of leaf veins behind, that type of defoliation is called skeletonizing. If the feeding is done in small, discrete round spots, like flea beetles often create, then the defoliation is referred to as shot holes. With smaller insects, they don't always make it completely through thick or leathery leaves, eating the green tissue but leaving the lower leaf surface intact, although that often soon dies and falls out to leave an actual hole in the leaf. Sometimes the chewing is in such small patches when the culprit is really tiny that to us it appears not like feeding, but as stippling or tiny dots on the leaf tissue. Thrips and spider mites cause this type of damage. Often the first sign of infestation is the mottled appearance of the leaf, as on this bean leaf. But look underneath it, and then get up really close, and you will see the many mites whose tiny chewing mouthparts have eaten just a portion of the leaf tissue. Leaf miners are insects that feed between the upper and lower leaf surfaces. Most leaf miners are the larval stages of moths, flies, or sawflies. The pattern created as the insect eats its way through the leaf during its development is sometimes diagnostic for the plant species and type of insect. There are two main types of mines: the blotch mines, which are generally irregular, rounded areas, and serpentine mines, which meander across the leaf, gradually widening as the insect grows. Sometimes the mine may be a combination of the two, with it starting as a narrow serpentine mine, but widening into a large blotch as the insect grows. Sometimes the insect or dark-colored frass can be seen in the damaged area when the leaf is held up to the light, as with these spotted teniform leaf miner mines on apple leaves. From the top, the blotchy mine looks like little dots on a blistered patch, but if that blistered area is opened up, then the moth larva tunneling inside can be seen. Here the leaf miner has left a distinctive trail of dark-colored frass behind in its tunnel as it winds along the leaf, and the leaf miner itself is visible through the lower leaf surface at the head of the trail. Some insects chew inside the stems. Because the insect is hidden from view, their feeding is often not directly noticeable. In herbaceous plants, the first symptom is often wilting of the plant, as the internal damage in the stems disrupts water flow from the roots to the top of the plant. If you look inside the stems of this wilting squash plant, the culprit, squash borers, the larval stage of a day-flying moth, can often be seen. In some instances, you only see piles of sawdust-like frass that the insect has pushed out of its tunnel in the plant. In larger, woody plants, only the emergence holes may be visible, where the adult insect has come out of the tunnel after completing its development inside the plant. This is the diagnostic D-shaped exit hole of birch borer, with a flat top side to the hole instead of a completely round hole. Now let's turn our attention to insects with piercing sucking mouthparts. These affect plants by removing sap, causing local tissue death or necrosis from salivary toxic secretions injected while feeding, and for a few by transmitting plant diseases. Unless the culprits are visible, symptoms of sucking damage are often quite vague and may resemble some plant diseases or borer injury. Oftentimes the feeding causes just a general decline without dramatic symptoms. Some symptoms of sucking damage include wilting, leaf curling, stippling, yellowing, abnormal growth, or the growth of sooty mold. Sooty mold is a saprophytic fungus that grows on honeydew, the sugary waste material produced by many sucking insects. It often looks shiny like water on the leaf, but is sticky to the touch and often collects debris such as the shed aphid skins and pollen on this leaf. Insect vector diseases tend to be more important in commercial agricultural production than in backyard gardens, but there are a number of insect-transmitted diseases that gardeners may encounter. Aster yellows, which is spread by the aster leafhopper, is one that is frequently seen in perennial gardens. This disease affects over 300 species of herbaceous broadleaf plants and is relatively common on Echinacea purpuracea, or purple coneflower, cosmos, marigolds, asters, chrysanthemums, some daisies, and zinnias. It also affects many weeds, such as this ragweed, and some vegetables, including carrots, lettuce, and potatoes. The symptoms are quite variable and may affect only the vegetative growth or the reproductive parts, depending on when the plant was infected, the age and/or size of the plant, temperature, and other factors. The leaves may show vein clearing until the entire leaf becomes chlorotic, or may be stunted and misshapen. The more characteristic symptoms occur in the flowers, which may have green petals instead of the normal color, such as pink in this coneflower, or exhibit abnormal growth, so that tissue that looks like leaves develops instead of the normal reproductive parts, or the parts may just be distorted and grow in strange ways. Frequently, these flowers are sterile and do not produce viable seed. Because there is no cure for aster yellows, infected plants should be removed to limit the continued spread of the pathogen by the leafhopper.